Hey guys, glad you're here. We were just about to read a story. Now, if you can see behind us, you'll see a painting done by this little guy right here. You can see all the bright colors, all the great shapes. Isn't it wonderful how we all see things? But artists, we all see things a little differently sometimes, and that's all right. And tonight, we're going to read a story about that. And this is called When Pigasso Met Mootise. And this is by Nina Laden. There once was a young pig named Pigasso. While the other piglets rolled in the mud and played games, Pigasso painted. He painted anything and everything, and in a most unusual way. At the same time, there once was a young bull named Mootise. Mootise was not like the other bulls. He wasn't interested in bullfighting. Mootise was happy only when he painted pictures, and he painted big, bold, bright pictures. In time, word of Picasso's talent spread throughout the pig provinces. Soon, art-loving pigs from all over lined up to buy his creations. At the same time, Mootise was getting famous in the cattle community. There weren't many households that didn't own a moosterpiece. Some say they were utterly fabulous. Pigasso and Mootise were becoming art superstars, but this came with a price. Everybody wanted to see them. Art buyers, art sellers, art students, art historians, art groupies. It was an art attack. One day Pigasso got fed up and said, "I am tired of this noisy pig pen." At the same time, Mootise declared, "And I am sick of this crowded cow town." Needing a change, they both decided to look for a peaceful place where they could paint without distractions. So each of the two artists looked far and wide for the perfect spot. Pigasso found a lovely farm looking towards the east. Mootise found a handsome farm facing the west. After Pigasso moved in, he went to introduce himself to the new neighbor across this road. At the same time, Mootise went to introduce himself to his new neighbor across the road. That is how Pigasso met Mootise. And coincidentally, that is how Mootise met Pigasso. At first, Pigasso and Mootise were friendly and welcomed each other as neighbors, but soon things began to change. You see how their paintings are different?
It's both on different sides of the world.
It started one day when Pigasso criticized one of Mootise's paintings. Then Mootise made fun of one of Picasso's. Mootise called Pigasso an art hog. Then Pigasso called Mootise a mad cow. Mootise quipped, "You paint like a 2-year-old. Pigasso retorted, "You paint like a wild beast." Mootise raged, "Your colors look like mud." Pigasso spat, "Your paintings look like color by numbers." Then things got really out of hand. It was a modern art mess.
Paints in their eyes.
Pigasso stormed off into his house. "That Mootise doesn't like my art," he huffed. "Well, I'll show him." And Mootise bullied his way into his house. "I'll give that Pigasso something he can really criticize," he snorted. Then a full-scale feud erupted. But it was a most unusual battle. Armed with ladders and buckets of paint, Mootise launched the first attack. He started at dawn. By the end of the evening, he had succeeded in transforming the outside of his house into a monster-sized moosterpiece. Not to be outdone, Pigasso fired up his paintbrushes and in full view of the enemy, counterattacked. He turned his farm into a huge and outrageous pork of art. The two artists then retreated into their houses and pulled down the shades. Pigasso certainly did not want to look out of his window and stare at Mootise, and Mootise had no desire to give his rooms a view of a Pigasso. This presented a problem, and there seemed to be only one solution. Without a word to each other, Pigasso and Mootise each began to build a huge wooden fence down the middle of their road. At first, Picasso and Mootise seemed satisfied. Both artists went back to painting by themselves, but after a while, Picasso was surprised to find that he missed that bull-headed Mootise. At the same time, Mootise found his studio empty without the presence of pig-headed Picasso. Picasso pondered, "That Mootise isn't such a bad artist. He has some interesting ideas." Mootise moaned, "That Picasso may not paint like me, but he knows what he is doing." However, being naturally pig-headed and bull-headed, neither artist knew how to apologize to the other. So they did what they do best. They let their paintbrushes do the talking. Picasso painted on one side of the fence and Mootise painted on the other. Each worked until they were exhausted. It was strangely quiet when they were done. What happened?
So exciting.
They're laughing.
Then, curious to see what Mootise had been doing, Picasso sprinted around to the other side. At the same time, Mootise galloped over to Picasso's side. The silence was broken as the two artists began laughing at their amazing work of art.
It's not. Picasso's not laughing.
It looks a little violent, doesn't it? Yeah, that's just a different way of doing it.
Yes.
From that day on, Picasso and Mootise became great friends. They happily took down the fence and shared their different views. A few months later, a big museum bought the fence. Picasso called his side When Picasso Met Mootise. Mootise called his side When Mootise Met Picasso. The critics called it incredible.
Little pig the whole bottle.
Yes, we love him. Little piggy with a bottle.
With a diaper.
And so that was a story of Picasso and Mootise, but it's actually about Pablo Picasso and Henri Matisse. Actual people, not bulls and pigs. But they were two of the famous artists. Thank you so much for being here tonight. Have a wonderful evening. Bye-bye.